Welcome to my homeschool classroom. I'm sure your classroom looks similar. We're going to talk about day one homeschooling, just a few tips to get you started. First of all, I have to admit that yesterday I cried, and the reason for that was I was thinking about how I miss my students, and I'm trying to learn how to do digital learning, and that is challenging for me, a little bit overwhelming, and I was really feeling like I'm really going to miss the interactions with my students and the activities that we do in the classroom, and I want to be able to make everything interesting for them online, but it's different. So I'm in a learning curve as well, but I have to tell myself the same thing I tell my students. One of the things I tell them often is that struggle grows your brain, so my brain is growing, and don't give up. And some things are easy for people and some things are not, and you always have to attack the things that are not easy, because if you put enough work into anything, you can figure it out anyway. But again, some things are easy, some things are not, but that doesn't mean you ever give up on it, okay? Because you can do this. The other thing, no one starts as an expert, and practice, practice, practice. That's the best way to get better. So I'm telling myself, I'm telling you as a homeschool parent, and those are little things you can remind your students as well. Okay, so for starting up day one, first thing is breakfast. And I know we've all heard this many times, do not forget breakfast. You can even have your kids eat breakfast while they're starting their work. That actually makes a nice transition, because they're not like, dragging their feet to get started. They're just eating and starting. So that is something that I've done in the past with my students with snacks. And again, snacks are fine too, but you really should have them finish a certain amount of things before they get a snack, and then they can keep working. Okay, chunk assignments. Okay, we teachers use this word chunk a lot, but that's about breaking it into pieces, of course. Your teachers probably have some sort of a schedule for what they want the kids done each day. You can follow that, or you can tailor that however you want to do it, but it does work better to give them a certain amount to get done before they get a snack, or before you go exercise, or before they're allowed to do some sort of art project that if you want them to do that, or something. But chunk it into a reasonable piece that they can get done, and then have a break and do something else, and then come back for the next piece. Okay, number 3 is schedule. Now, that is, of course, well, all of these things are optional, but schedule, if you don't want to do a schedule, you don't need to do one. I find that kids work better with a schedule, because sometimes, 3 minutes takes 4 hours if they don't know what to expect or how long they have to do something. For my classroom, every day I always write on the whiteboard the order of what we're doing, and that seems to help them stay targeted, and they often look at that to know what's going to happen next, instead of continuing to ask me, or how much longer do we have to do this, and stuff like that. So that's just something that I found is helpful. If it works for you, go ahead and do that. Number 4, they work, you work. And you're thinking, what? This is about them doing schoolwork. It works better, I believe, if you bring stuff that you need to work on to the table. Of course, you need to make it clear that they're working and you're working. And of course, if they really need help with something, you can offer assistance, but you also don't want to get into the situation where they want you to hold their hand the whole time. Your teachers will be assigning stuff that they are not, that are familiar to them already, since we are not here to start super new stuff. So they really should be able to do most of it independently, although, I expect they might need, have some questions here and there. But it helps the kids to know that you're there, you're having that togetherness thing, and that it also keeps them on task, and when you're there with them, and you're having a family work together, work along, shall we say. So that's another suggestion. Number 5, spot check for rushing. You don't need to be checking everything or correcting everything or grading everything. That's not really your responsibility to do that unless you really would like to. But you should at least be spot checking for rushing. And what I mean by that is, of course, many children will want to rush through stuff in order to get it done so they can be done and go play, okay? So at least be spot checking for that. If you see that your child is rushing through stuff and putting random answers that don't make sense, that's your sign to make them slow down. So we have to do that all the time. Number 6, teach me. This is optional, as of course everything is. One thing that will engage your child, if you let them know ahead of time, hey, I have a different job. I'm not really a teacher, so this is a learning experience for me as well. And I'm sure that you know some stuff, or you can tell them, I'm sure that there's some things in here that you know better than me. So at the end of the lesson, you could ask them to pick one thing that they learned and teach it to you as a reward for them working well, and they get a kick out of that. As another benefit to that is that if they're teaching you, that actually helps them learn it better themselves. So these are my 6 helpful tips for getting started with homeschooling. And I don't know if you've noticed my shirt, but it says, who's playing? And you're playing, your kids are playing, and I'm playing. And it's a different game, but we can do this, and we'll see you next time.